Welcome back, everybody. White Widow Sports here with episode 7 of what I hope is your favorite podcast. If you're new here, we appreciate you stopping by. If you're a returning viewer, we appreciate you just the same. I really thought that this was going to be kind of a slow week. To be honest with you, earlier today, I didn't even know what we were going to talk about. But the more I start to look across the slate of things, we've actually got more going on in the week, just in multiple sports than what I would have even thought. So, before we get into that, guys, how's your week been? What's going on with you guys?
Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, well, good. Not much going on. Just out to do some errands. Got a haircut. Maybe that's obvious if you follow along with the videos, but not too much.
So I've had a very productive week, and you've probably already guessed what I've been doing. I've been playing with OBS and switching between people and trying to let you actually see instead of a little bitty square what we actually look like and when we talk. So very productive week, pretty good. Pretty happy for now.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll go ahead and get right into it. We'll start with some of the somber news. Got some notable headlines in the world of basketball. Chris, kind of start us off with that.
Yeah, Greg Popovich is stepping down for the remainder of the season, as I'm sure a lot of viewers have seen. He suffered a stroke in November. He met pretty recently with the Spurs organization, hopes to return in the future. 76-year-old spent his 29-year NBA career with the San Antonio Spurs, his head coaching career with the Spurs. He won 5 championships and three-time Coach of the Year. He's also a gold medal winning coach with the U.S. Olympic team in 2020. We certainly wish him well and hope that he gets to feeling better soon. Basically, my thoughts on this is what I like about Coach Pop is that he's been able to consistently win and rebuild when needed, decade after decade, with different stars and different lineups. Certainly a different path than someone like Phil Knight has had, where he had led Jordan and the Bulls to their fame. He dipped out right after that was over. He did the same with Kobe and the Lakers, and then he just left after that was over to a degree. Um, Somewhat the same for Doc Rivers on a smaller scale with the Celtics. Coach Pop stayed in one place. I think sometimes the Spurs are often forgotten for just how good of a franchise they've had, and it was all built by him. Um, I wouldn't blame a 76-year-old for saying this is it at some point soon, but it's ultimately up to him. And I think that the team has a very bright future with some of the guys they brought in, especially Wimby when he gets healthy. If he decides to return and stick around until, say, maybe 80 years old, he'll definitely add some glamour to his upcoming Hall of Fame career. Even if a championship in that time seems a little bit far fetched, I think 1,500 wins seems like a mark he could be shooting for in his remaining time as a head coach. Should he come back, he's at 1,388 right now, so 1,500. Give him a few more years, I think he'll get to that. But we wish him well. So that's what I've got for him.
Yeah, I
Hey,
mean,
Chris, I have a question. You
Sure.
know, he's coaching, and I understand that is super stressful, and we do want to wish him the best. I also noticed that he's the president. Is he stepping down from that role as well?
I have not heard on that. I would imagine he is because he's focusing on his health and everything. But for him to do this is a bit surprising because he's just a funny guy in interviews. I know he's sometimes known for that. Uh, he's pretty well known for that. When you give him an interview, he'll be like, "So what do you think you need to do in the second half to make adjustments?" And he's just like, "Score more points," and then he just leaves. And I was like, "That's a funny guy." So for him to step away like this, I think he's probably stepping away in all roles. Maybe we can fact check that. But yeah, if you want to focus on your health, you're probably going to step away completely from all roles.
yeah, I mean, you're talking about the oldest head coach in NBA history. I mean, he was 75 at the last time he actually coached a game, but he has since turned 76 during this absence. Um, I don't know which one of us needs to be fact checked. I actually had him at 1401. as far as regular season wins, and then 170 playoff wins, which I believe are both most all time. And 35 total years with the Spurs. Just crazy longevity that you don't see very often in the world of sports. We see, head coaches get hired and fired less than a full year into the job. And so for him to have that position for as long as he has, huge blow to the organization. You mentioned Wemby also being done for the year. We talked about that last week. Spurs are currently 13th in the Western Conference. I mean, just a lost season that nobody saw coming. You really can't understate how devastating this is for the Spurs. They really want him back, but they want the best version of him at this point. I think everybody expects him to be back, but I've seen strokes take a toll. This
Right.
was described as being a mild stroke, not a severe one. So hopefully he'll be back in his normal self, and the Spurs will be right back at it next year when they get healthy, both on the player front and the coaching front.
Yeah. I got a few more things to go into, but before we do that, Brad, I know you've been watching some combine stuff that just got started up. What do you got for us over there?
Oh, so today was day two. Kind of they're really smart in the way that they layer this. A lot of people want to see the running backs and receivers as far as their 40 times and things of that nature. A lot of people want to see the field drills for the quarterback. So they almost kind of start you off slow. Thursday was day one. And so you have your linebackers, your defensive linemen, all your edge players and such. But I kind of had just a few guys between yesterday and today, days 1 and 2, that I wanted to talk about as far as what you would label combine winners, guys that have really helped themselves with their performance in a world where a lot of players will opt out of games. The combine is no different. But Jahad Campbell is a linebacker for Alabama. He actually ran a 4.5 240, which was the third fastest for linebackers. He followed that up with a 10-foot 7-inch broad jump, and he did that at 6'3", 235 pounds. Just incredible athleticism there. James Pierce Jr. is an edge rusher out of Tennessee. He's somebody that I've really been following throughout this process, just as somebody that I wouldn't mind the Falcons drafting. He certainly helped himself out. 4.47 40-yard dash was first within that position group. 1.56 10-yard split is essentially they time it separately. The first 10 yards of your 40, it measures, kind of that quick step, that explosiveness. That's a really good number for him. And 31-inch vert is really the puzzling number for him, because you see a 10'3" broad jump is not bad. The 1.56 10-yard split, it shows that he is a fast, explosive athlete, but then a 31-inch vert almost contradicts that. But he is 6'5", 245 pounds. So I don't think you should be expecting too much more off of that. I think the biggest winner from day one was Shamar Stewart. He's another edge rusher out of Texas A&M. He ran a 4.59 40-yard dash, and he had a 10-foot 11-inch broad jump. He did that at 6'5", 267 pounds. He showed up remarkably smaller than what he played at. Texas A&M had actually asked him to gain weight, so I think he's lost 30 pounds since the end of the college season, to kind of show that explosiveness as an athlete and what we should expect him to be more geared towards playing at a pro. For some of you nerds out there that know what a RAS score, it's relative athletic score, he is actually unofficially sitting at a perfect 10 on that scale. Every year, that's something that people look out for, is kind of certain testing numbers as they combine with height and weight. And you can get a perfect score in that. Right now, from what he's already done on the field, he's sitting at a 10 right now unofficially. So that's pretty cool for anybody that's familiar with that metric. And then today you also had the cornerbacks and safeties and tight ends play, go through their different drills. Maxwell Hairston is a corner from Kentucky. He ran a 4.28 40-yard dash. That is blazing fast. Obviously, we haven't had receivers and running backs quite yet, but definitely the fastest time so far. He had a 1.50 10-yard split. Follow that up with a 39.5-inch vertical leap and a 10.9 broad jump. 5'11", 183 pounds. That sort of performance can get you talked about as a first-round prospect if he wasn't already. And then as far as safeties go, South Carolina has a prospect, Nick Amenwari. He ran a 4.3840. That was second fastest amongst the safeties. Very respectable there. 43-inch vert and an 11.6 broad jump at 6'3", 220 pounds. Just crazy athleticism for a safety. Somebody that can be used all over the field, shows that range. Pretty interesting, if the combine is your thing, to see the position groups that they almost seem like they're trying to get out of the way first, to have some guys that really showed up and showed out. The one position I think really kind of hurt themselves as far as combine goes is the tight ends, though. 3 of your top 5 tight ends are not testing. Tyler Warren from Penn State is only interviewing with teams. Colston Loveland from Michigan, he is still in a sling. He had shoulder surgery back in January. And then Elijah Arroyo from Miami, he is recovering from a knee injury that he suffered at the Senior Bowl. Just from watching right before we got on here, Terrence Ferguson is a tight end from Oregon. He ran the fastest 40 time amongst tight ends at 4.63. He had a 39-inch vertical leap and a 10.2 broad jump. So really not bad. He is more of a Joker style tight end. Not a lot of bulk to him or anything like that, but real interesting over the next couple of days to see the running backs, the receivers, the quarterbacks, and get those measurements, the field drills and stuff like that. This is one of my favorite events of the year, so I'm definitely plugged in every day. You will find me glued to the TV when the combine's on. I don't know if you guys pay as close attention to the underwear Olympics, as they're sometimes called, or if y'all have had any thoughts about what's going on so far or who you're most looking forward to, but I'd love to hear it.
I did catch a little bit of the combine yesterday. I watched a little bit today, but most of it was last night. I too had Pierce picked out of the crowd on that defensive line, ran a really good 40. Really, really impressed with his drills after the 40. I like those a lot better than the 40. It just gets a little bit repetitive to me. What else do you have in football, Brad?
Well, I mean, we spend a lot of time talking about the combine, obviously the draft coming up. So there's a lot of excitement and buzz around the future stars of the NFL, but there are some current stars that are still making headlines as well. Travis Kelce being one. A lot of people were curious on if he was going to retire and call it a career. Maybe we would have gotten a different answer if the Chiefs had three-peated and won the Super Bowl. But with the Eagles winning this year, Travis Kelce says that I can't go out like that, and he is returning for 2025. He's 12 seasons in. He's got 77 career touchdowns, but he only had 3 in 2024. And that's the lowest since his rookie season, where he had no catches. So, I mean, every year he's, bested that number. So I think a lot of people saw this as an obvious decline and thought that it would be a natural exit. But I mean, the Chiefs, as we talked about when we were reviewing the Super Bowl, they're still in contention. They are still probably the betting favorite to win the Super Bowl next year as those early odds come out. And Travis Kelce is still a big part of their team's success, even as he kind of ages out of the league. He's somebody that you still have to give a lot of defensive attention to. And I think it's good for the Chiefs that he's coming back, because they really don't have a true heir apparent in place. Chris, do you have any thoughts about Kelce coming back?
I sort of disagree. I think that they're still very much in contention, but I don't think he's that much of a part of it. I think he commands some defensive attention, but as you said, his numbers are so far down that I think the Chiefs could pick up and continue their success without him. And it just seems, like you said with the stats, that he's going downhill, and I'm not sure that how do I put this? It seems to me like he wants to attach himself to the success of the Chiefs more than the Chiefs need him to attach their success to. So, I mean, it's not up to me to tell someone to retire, of course, or anyone. It's up to that person. But I just don't think, I think he just wants to attach himself to a championship rather than give them a championship.
Which I guess I need to clarify a little bit. The Chiefs, they drafted Xavier Worthy last year, and we saw flashes of what he could do. We expect Rashee Rice to be back. Of course, there's still some off the field issues with him. We don't know if he's going to be facing a suspension when he comes back from injury. But I you see certain connections that, I mean, you saw it with Gronkowski and Brady for a long time. You saw Devontae Adams with Aaron Rodgers. Sometimes you get these kind of mind melds between players where the quarterback and their target know what each other is going to do where nobody else in the organization does, nobody else on the field does. And so I think you see certain things where Kelce just knows what Mahomes is going to do. He knows how to find holes in the defense. He is the ultimate security blanket for Mahomes when the deep shot to Worthy doesn't work, when they bracket coverage Rice. What is he going to do? He's going to try to find Kelce as an outlet. He's going to extend drives, even if he's not the primary scorer, on like what we were used to seeing from him. So that's all I mean. I mean, he's still a valuable part of the offense, even if he's not the primary read.
And what's to say he just didn't have a down year this year? You've seen it from pros in the past. They have slumps. They have, this is just not your year. So yeah, I don't know. I think he's still young enough. I think he can still produce. Yeah, is he going to be a half step slower? Yes, but with that half step slower comes with a lot of experience. So, uh, you know, I'm kind of hoping. I'm not a big Chiefs fan, but I am kind of hoping that's all it was. He had a little bit of an off year, and his numbers will pick up, and he'll have a much better year next year before he gets ready to retire and hang up the cleats. And if you haven't catched his podcast, I would suggest go check it out after you watch ours, of course. But they do. Him and his brother have a really good
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so showing some love to some other sports podcasters. Hopefully, they'll return the favor and shout us out the same way. I'll start holding my breath now. Okay.
Okay.
And before we get off the combine NFL news, have you heard, is Scatterboo gonna participate in there? I know there's a lot of people that are not this year.
Yeah, as far as I know, he is. I think Ashton Genty is the only opt out amongst the big running back prospects that I've seen anyway. A lot of these guys are going to. Genty is the unquestioned RB1, uh, and there are going to be some times where he just wants to interview. He might still work out at a pro day. I haven't heard if he intends to do that or not. But I mean, and we talked about this in a recent podcast, but anytime a player can benefit themselves by participating, they're going to. It's the people that have more to lose than to gain are the ones that opt out. So, like Tyler Warren being that first round tight, there's nothing wrong with him, but he already feels like his spot is cemented within the draft pecking order. Only thing he could do is hurt himself by having poor numbers or getting injured. So there's no point to it. Cam Scatterboo, in what is a very big running back draft class, he has to go and not only perform, but also show out. He's considered a workout warrior. This is kind of his time to shine where he's going to make the difference between whether he's a fourth round pick or a second round pick based off of his performance in these drills. So he should definitely be there. And I look forward to seeing what he does and how he does.
Oh yeah.
But there was one other big name, and that's Matthew Stafford. Kind of made news today. A lot of people were thinking that he could be on his way to the Giants or the Raiders. There was talk that he had been granted permission, or his agent had been granted permission to talk to other teams about a possible trade. But today, Friday the 28th, he agreed to a restructured contract with the Rams. I'm not sure how long he's going to be there. I don't know if it's 1, 2, 3 years, but they got the negotiations worked out. The Giants and Raiders had both been talking to his agent prior to this. Those details got back to the Rams, and they were able to work out something that kept him there. Cooper Kupp is still considered on the way out, so that's a situation to watch. But it kind of makes those other two teams that were trying to land Stafford, it puts them in a different motion towards gaining a new starting quarterback for 2025. The name that's really been linked to the Giants after this news has been Aaron Rodgers. That would be a short drive for him going from the Jets to the Giants. I'm sure he's already got a place to stay. And then the Raiders, you have the obvious links of Russell Wilson due to Pete Carroll being the head coach there. Justin Fields is another name that they're looking at. And then you've got the unquestioned QB1 on the market, which is Sam Darnold coming over from the Vikings. The real interesting thing is that there is still a chance that the Vikings will use the franchise tag and keep Darnold around. But I think most people expect him to go to the market and land a pretty good sized contract. So what are y'all thoughts on Stafford sticking with the Rams? Is that kind of what you expected? Or are you glad to see it?
I don't have too many thoughts on that one. It's great that they believe in him that much. He's around my age. If you guys want to look up Stafford's age, you can figure that one out. So it's impressive to see them believing in a guy that age. He's still obviously got a real strong arm. I don't know if he has the team around him to do anything in the rest of his career. Maybe to compete a little bit, but I don't see a championship. So I mean, good for you for keeping the comfort level you had and the team you had. And, hopefully I'm wrong and it works out better than just average, which is kind of what I predict.
And I guess it really depends on what they pick up in the draft.
Yeah.
Maybe some other free agents to kind of go help him out a little bit. I'm like Chris. I think his arm's plenty strong enough. I think he showed a couple of times this year that he's still a little mobile. He's never been a mobile quarterback. He wasn't at Georgia. He hasn't been his whole pro career. He's not gonna be, but I do think he can still compete at least for a couple more years. So I'm not mad at that move. I like him over there in the Rams organization. Like I said, it's just a lot's going to be what they pick up this offseason to kind of help him out and maybe build a not deep in the playoffs, but at least get them to the playoffs.
Yep, for sure. And I think that's really all I had as far as NFL goes. Brian, I think there was a Mexico championship played recently. You had some notes on that.
So I did. It played last weekend. Obviously, it doesn't get a lot of press because it doesn't have the big names. It's not going to draw the Rorys, the Sheffields, the Tiger Woods. So it's not going to have a lot of fanfare, but it is a lot of fun to watch. I think, um, especially when it got down to the very end. The person who won it, which I kind of am a fan of his name. His name is Brian Patrick Campbell. So like the first two names, but he ended up winning. If you missed it, it's been on ESPN and a couple of channels. He hit a terrible drive coming down the stretch, and it went into the woods, hit a bamboo tree, and bounced out into the light rough to where he had a playable ball. Um, I play a good amount of golf, and I never get that lucky. So props to him for being able to find the one tree that could knock it back out. And I think I heard on ESPN or maybe the PGA channel that he went and wanted to name the tree after him because it was such a lucky bounce. So um, it's fun to see that when you see the people that you know don't have the big names. And I believe this was his first win ever. Um, so he got a big payday. I think it was like 1.2 or 1.3 million is what he won. So nice payday. Um, I know his fiance or girlfriend was super happy to see him win. Finally, very emotional after the win. So a lot of fun. I know still got a couple of months maybe before the Masters, which I guess is the next big event. Could be wrong. There may be some more in there, but I'm just not thinking about it. But um, yeah, that's pretty much all we had for golf this week.
Chris, what did you have for us?
Well, a little college basketball. So as of Friday afternoon, some teams on the bubble with important games to help their resumes include Indiana, Georgia, Boise State, Xavier, Texas, North Carolina, Baylor, Ohio State, Cincinnati, Wake Forest, San Francisco, and SMU. Um, so I'm probably going to throw one of those games on while I exercise this weekend, see what happens. I think Texas and Georgia, two of those teams on the bubble, are playing, so I will check that out. Um, so some other teams that probably don't have to worry as much as far as getting into the tournament are top teams such as Auburn, Duke, Florida, Houston, Tennessee, Alabama, Michigan State, and so on. It's interesting for me to see the shift in SEC teams rising higher than the ACC teams, which is something you wouldn't have seen as much of 10 years ago. Should be noted that last year's champion UConn is sitting at 19-9 right now and unranked. Logic says they'll probably make it in around a 9 seed, and as we've seen many times over the past few years, you wouldn't count them out just because they're that low. They've made some big runs. The runner-up from last season, Purdue, is still projected around a 4 seed, despite losing Zach Edey, which was a huge part of their team, and I had a good bit of fun watching him. Um, I've got this gut feeling, finally, that one of the SEC teams that's risen so high in the last 5 years is actually going to get it done this season. It was hard for me to believe in an Alabama or an Auburn or a Tennessee when they just, focused a lot more on football or baseball in Tennessee's case, whether they like that statement or not. Um, but I just feel like now that you've had several years in the spotlight, being on the big stage, I think that one of these SEC teams, such as Auburn, are going to finally get it done, and not play the underdog role, even as a highly ranked team. Um, Guys, I know you're not big basketball fans, and even Brad, being a little bit of a basketball fan, is more pro, and myself included in that. But Brad, have you seen any college basketball as we come down the stretch here?
Well, I mean, we made the comment recently that with March Madness coming up, it'll probably be the first time that I ever fill out a bracket. So I have been trying to be a little bit more invested. I did watch the Auburn Alabama game that was recently played. Uh, Pretty tightly contested at times. Auburn would go on runs right after Alabama would get there and make it a close game. And so it kind of made me a believer in Auburn that they're ready for tournament play because they can take some really good shots from really good teams and then come right back and answer them. And that's really what you want to see. A lot of times you see that one really good team that blows out everybody and then they don't know how to win a close game. The fact that Auburn's already getting tested before the tournaments actually start, I think it's a really good indicator that they're going to be there, closer to the end. So just from what I've seen so far, I would probably expect Auburn to go pretty deep. But looking forward to March Madness, I'll watch a lot more when that's going on than just regular
Yeah.
season games. But I'm definitely watching more basketball now than ever before. I think I have this podcast to thank for it.
I agree. I tried to watch it and I made it like maybe the first 2 minutes into the Georgia Auburn game, and Georgia was getting blown out 9-0. I was like, I just can't do this. I love my dogs too much. I can't watch it, and I had to change the channel.
A basketball fan knows that that's not really a much of a
No,
lead.
that's not too
Even
bad.
that's not insurmountable at all. That's 3 shots worth.
But a
And shout out,
non-basketball fan changes the channel and goes and watches something else.
and shout out to Gonzaga. When you talk about teams that blow out teams all year and then can't compete on a big stage, they're known for doing that over the years. That's all I really had on college basketball. We'll probably have a good bit more when the tournament gets going. I'm sure we're not the only ones that are like, oh, I pay a good bit more attention when the tournament gets going. That seems to be a lot of people. Um,
Well, I mean, a lot of people only watch curling during the Olympics and can't tell you what happens the other 4 years. So,
is
March
that right?
Madness is my Olympics as far as college basketball goes. I'll watch that tournament a lot more than I'll watch just a normal Tuesday night game between two teams that I don't care about
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. So we'll go over to college baseball. That just got going recently. Last year, Tennessee won it over Texas A&M. Currently, A&M is ranked number one, Tennessee number three. Despite the Aggies' one loss and Tennessee's 0 losses, LSU finds themselves in between them at number two. Some of the smaller schools in the early top 25 are Dallas Baptist, UC Santa Barbara at 19th and 20th. Um, though if you follow a little college baseball in recent years, Dallas Baptist has won an NCAA regional in 2011 and 2021. They were then eliminated following in the following super regionals both years. Fun fact I found out about them is they're actually the only Division two member in all other sports that compete in Division one for baseball. So that's pretty cool. They're in the Conference USA for those who don't know, and are the reigning conference champions. UC Santa Barbara hosted a regional last season and even made the College World Series in 2016, where they finished fifth. I admittedly am not much of a baseball fan in general, but it can be fun to see what kind of crazy things can happen over the season and into the postseason down the road when you're dealing with 300 teams. It also makes it easier when local teams such as Georgia Southern and Georgia have had so much success on a consistent level for a good long while now. You guys keep any eyes on college baseball? I know it's just getting started, and I wouldn't blame you if you didn't even know that.
Yeah, I think I'm known for prioritizing my sports. When football season comes around, I don't pay attention to baseball. It's one of those things where I'm always going to take the sports that I like the most and watch them no matter what's going on in the other sport. The fact that
Mhm.
baseball has just started, I haven't seen anything about it. Just being completely honest with you, I'll watch the games when they matter. I'll watch, the College World Series and stuff like that. I like watching the softball games actually a little bit more than the men's games in a lot of instances. Just really cool to see that level of play, and I think it's probably because there's not, and I might get grilled for this, so don't come at me with the pitchforks and torches. But a lot of times you will compare college sports to their pro equivalent, and a lot of times it seems like the college softball World Series is kind of the pinnacle of that sport. There's not a women's Major League Baseball on TV every week that you can compare it to. So seeing the best teams in the country play at that high of a level to me is very exciting, but not there yet.
Not there yet.
I agree. I'm right there with you. Once it gets exciting, it's kind of like spring baseball for the major leagues. It's when it gets down to it that you really start paying attention and really get vested or invested in some of these teams. So yeah, a couple more weeks, I'll be ready. I'll be in baseball mode. But right now, I'm just kind of you know watching other things.
Understandable, and I think we'll talk about some more college baseball in here as the season gets going. Again, not a huge fan myself, but I'm certainly going to be interested to see what happens, especially covering it on YouTube and such more so, and then pro baseball get going here soon enough, and yeah, look forward to jumping into something else other than football. Nothing against football; it's always going to be my number one, but looking forward to diversifying a bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you call it the off season right now, but I'm just as plugged into football right now as I am during the season. The combine going on this week, free agency starts not long after that, and then we'll be looking at the draft. Then you get into OTAs and so on and so forth. There's always going to be something football related to talk about. I'm excited for it.
But yeah, I'm still fully into football too. I was just being nice to the audience here, trying to pretend like I wasn't impartial. But yeah, I'll still be downstairs playing NCAA and Madden. I'm wearing a football jersey for God's sakes. I'm reading a football book before I go to bed 2 or 3 times a week. So you
Yeah, I
know,
noticed that jersey you're wearing. Did that guy ever amount to anything, or?
he did not. He just went out and blocked a defensive back in high school about 20 years ago, and he had fun doing it. And I hear he has a fun life down in Savannah, Georgia these days, and so
Maybe we can get him on the podcast one day. That would be cool.
maybe he already is. I don't know.
Well, guys, I think that's all that we really had this week. I appreciate y'all if y'all are still here. Very exciting. We are nearing 30 subscribers. Maybe we've got those by the time this podcast comes out. That's something that we're looking at, kind of our next little milestone. We've got some fun projects in the work in addition to this podcast, so be on the lookout for those. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. Another thing that we're really looking for is some more engagement. If you're watching but you're not liking the video, we'd appreciate it if you would do that. And then drop a comment. Just let us know anything that caught your attention about this podcast, anything that you want to respond to. Maybe that's something that we can get better at, is posing questions to you guys and getting some responses back. We'd love to have more interaction with our fans and kind of go from there. But other than that, that was all that I really had. And again, just thank you to all who's made it to the end of this video. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time.